Welcome to The Prenup, the wedding-obsessed podcast designed to help you plan your dream day. I'm your host, Adriana, and each week I'm joined by the industry's top professionals, celebs, influencers, and friends who are sharing their best tips, advice, and mistakes they've made so you don't have to. The Prenup is a Love Stories TV podcast. This episode is brought to you by Brightco. From your engagement ring to your wedding day, protect your most cherished memories with Brightco. Visit bright.co/prenup for a fast, free quote today and unlock peace of mind knowing you're covered. Okay, before we get into the episode, I just want to give a little disclaimer and intro to the intro. My hope is that all of your marriages last forever plus. And my stance on divorce is not necessarily a negative one, that being said. So I think there are instances where divorce is necessary, even though it's obviously not the ideal. And I always want to be respectful of everyone's cultures and religions in every episode and in this one as well. But my priority is the health, safety, and happiness of anyone who's listening and any of my loved ones, friends, whatever. So while the goal, of course, is to not get divorced, when you're entering a marriage, my personal stance is that divorce does not mean a failed marriage. In my opinion, a failed marriage is one that lacks compromise from one or both sides, or a situation where one or both people are unhappy or unsafe or unhealthy. So I just wanted to give you my personal stance. I don't have a stigma against divorce, but today we are going to be talking about it in a real way because it's a real thing. We are going to keep it light and fun, but I just wanted to give that little disclaimer because I love you all and I don't want you to think that I am judging anyone in any instance because I'm definitely not. I'm here simply to help, and I have an expert guest today. So let's get into the regular intro now that the disclaimer is done.
It got serious very quickly.
I know. Things get serious, and then we just have to bring them back down so we can have fun.
I hope.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to have fun for sure.
Okay.
It might be about a topic that can be very heavy, and it's definitely something that I would say most people are no stranger to. I think everyone has someone. Yeah, for sure. At least someone in their life is divorced. Yes. But today we are going to be talking about basically how not to get divorced. I wanted to talk to someone who has a lot of expertise and experience in this topic to give us maybe some cautionary advice. I've enlisted in the help of Alan Feigenbaum. He is a top New York-based divorce lawyer, and he counsels clients through the legal, financial, and logistical sides of navigating a separation from a partner. And today, he's helping us with the tools and resources we need to equip ourselves before getting into marriage so that we don't become another statistic. Alan, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Sorry, I went on this long tirade.
That's okay.
Inviting a guest, and here I am just chatting the whole time.
Should be interesting.
It will be interesting. So I wanted to start with a little icebreaker myth buster. This is something that I hear an argument about all the time. And I just wanted to ask you, because you'll probably know best, if someone calls off an engagement, who has the right to the engagement ring?
So here in New York, the ring is considered a conditional gift, which is a fancy way of saying that if you don't get married, the gift is not complete, and therefore you can get the ring back.
Oh, that's really interesting. But that's not necessarily everywhere.
Correct. I can't speak to outside of New York.
Okay.
But in New York, it doesn't matter whose quote-unquote fault it is.
Sure.
You're entitled to get the ring back.
Interesting. Okay.
But once you're married, it's a completed gift.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So in the event that the marriage goes forward, but maybe there's a divorce separation, then the gift is complete.
Yours.
Okay.
Let us pray that somebody does not, decide that they want to value the engagement ring in divorce.
It's kind of sick. I mean, I'm sure you see some sicker stuff than even that.
I do. but valuing jewelry can be up there, depending on how valuable it is. I understand. But by and large, jewelry, clothing, it better be really priceless to start valuing it.
Totally. Especially because, diamonds, from what I hear from professional jewelers, which I am not, but they are kind of like cars in that they lose their value once they walk off the lot.
Right.
So yeah, like if you're purchasing a ring, it should be like the value should be sentimental, not financial.
One would hope.
Yeah.
I don't see many reported decisions on this topic, and hopefully that means that most people work that out without going to court.
Yeah, and like, what are you gonna do with it at that point? You know, it's one of
Other
those
than
things
to
like
spite someone.
totally. Which it gets there, and
Get it.
hopefully you are in a position where you're not there, and you can go forward amicably. But I doubt that's common.
But it's despite the angst over the ring, it's probably better. If it's not meant to be, then better to end it before you actually tie the knot.
For sure. Well, okay, so that kind of gets me into my next question. We recently did an episode about prenups. And my kind of stance after speaking with the attorney that we had on, Nicole Noonan, is that most people should have a prenup. I want to know from your perspective how you feel about that.
I'm not someone who says that everyone has to have them. I know there's divorce lawyers that say you must.
Yeah.
I would rather say that everyone should have an education on what it means to enter into the marriage contract with the state of New York. So I would rather that instead of do you have to have a prenup or not have a prenup, I'd prefer it if people knew that when you divide up marital property in New York, it's called equitable distribution, and the courts go to great lengths to say that equitable doesn't mean equal. For certain types of assets, it typically is, but for many, it isn't. And that can be kind of a heartbreaker for some people, especially when you have something like someone who's in business and has a business interest, and you're what's called the non-titled spouse, and you learn that here in Manhattan, your best case scenario, very rare that it's 50-50, more 10% to 33% of the value. These are just things that you'd have no clue. And I understand that it doesn't sound very exciting to get into that before tying the knot. But again, I know we're going to talk about alimony and spousal support. I do wonder if that would impact the marriage rate if people had a greater understanding as to what it means to get into that bargain with the state.
Yes, I think you're 1,000% right. I have conversations with people sometimes who have an argument of, when you know you love someone, why wouldn't you just get married? Even being in weddings, like that's how I make my money. However, I think that people should wait until like absolute certainty and until frontal lobe is developed. And
when is that?
I think it's 25.
Okay.
So
I think I made the cutoff. Okay.
So being a divorce attorney, did that impact at all the way that you viewed or view marriage today?
So at the time I got married, I was just a corporate litigator for about 5 years. Then I switched to divorce.
Okay.
I would say that it enhances perspective. I don't think that we're high and mighty or superior beings, but I do think it gives you greater perspective in designating what's important and what isn't, and not arguing over nonsense. And that's not a dig. It's just after seeing all the gamut of arguments that can be had day in and day out, when you're then with your partner, I think you have a better understanding of, maybe this is not something to focus on.
Yes. And I think sometimes it's easy to lose sight of why we're doing this. Are we getting married for a wedding or a marriage?
I would point out just with parenting, I know we're talking about marriage.
Yes.
But I do think that it also gives you greater perspective on that.
On parenting?
Yes. So certainly as a dad, from all the cases I've seen with fathers and teenage daughters, I have a teenage daughter. It's easy for dads to fuck that up. Excuse me.
Yeah, no.
And I am living this, and I wouldn't want to be a teenage girl. It seems extremely difficult.
Yeah, especially today.
But there have been moments where I've had to catch myself, because I think you got to walk a fine line. And if you are too rigid, that relationship, it's very breakable. So I think it gives you more perspective in the parenting realm as well.
That's really interesting. And especially when you're a young person getting married and you're very much in love and you're starting to think about your future, I think you start to envision children, but you can't fully fathom what it is to have them.
We definitely didn't. The focus was on having a good party.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
maybe there are people that are thinking that far down the line at that time. I don't know.
When you are young and you're planning that traditional type of wedding reception, big party, it's not to say that you haven't thought about these other things, but I think the priority when you're in your young, mid, even late 20s is having a good time, not like fostering a family.
Not getting married.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not. I think most people who are getting married definitely are of course planning their life with someone. It's not all about the wedding, but I think that if you were to ask, a 45-year-old person who was getting married what the priority is, they maybe would be a little less inclined than the average 25-year-old to be like, oh, the party, the event, they're probably...
Those people want to party too.
For
Let me tell you.
For sure.
I've seen the footage. So, but just, you were talking about, does everyone need a prenup, right? So
Yes.
Certainly, if there's a big issue with wealth preservation, protecting a good degree of assets, I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And also people that are in second and third marriages where marriage number one ended in, unfortunately, let's say a disastrous litigation.
Yeah.
You never want to go through that again.
Yeah.
Or try your hardest not to. That, of course, I understand it. A prenup makes sense. I'm just saying across the board blanket, you must have it. I can't go there.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if you're young, you might not have many assets that you're coming in
Right.
with. And, it's one of those things that if you're building a life together, then maybe you feel like your partner should have that half of because of what they've helped you with. They've supported you emotionally. They've maybe made sacrifices in their own careers that you could further yours. And in those instances, I think it's fair to kind of split things up.
I do too. One would hope that happens.
Yeah.
I don't see much of that.
Okay. So
But I'm sure it exists.
I hope it exists somewhere. I mean, you got to remember you loved the person at one time, right?
Yes, that's right.
So being a divorce attorney, what do you see are some of the most top common reasons that people decide to get divorced?
Oh, okay. Well, look, I mean, people jump right to things such as, well, I'll name one, infidelity, right? But I think before you go there, you need to dial it back and talk about communication, which I know is very broad.
Mm-hmm.
But the pattern I see, which is like a broken record, is that communication tends to break down and we all kind of form an opinion in our own minds of what the other person or partner is thinking
Mm-hmm.
without ever speaking to them about it. We convince ourselves it's right. We're all a little guilty of this. I am as well. And then it just becomes easier not to say anything. And then two people wind up coexisting under the same roof.
It's
and
sad.
eventually it is sad.
Yeah.
But it happens over and over. And that, unfortunately, can lead to deception. And that's when you get into infidelity and whatnot. Of course, that's not it. There's also substance abuse, actual abuse, verbal, emotional, physical. There's also, I would say, emotional abuse sometimes from in-laws. That can be very difficult as well.
That is a big one. We have a session here called premarital counseling. We'll actually do it today. It's part of the show. We'll do it a little later on. But I would say, I don't know, maybe half of the inquiries that we get and the questions and seeking advice is about in-law issues.
Right.
And it makes sense because it's, when you merge families, there's all these traditions and expectations and forms of communication that people just do completely differently. And you mix two groups of people in there and it's kind of like a tornado.
Yes. There's also, look, I mean, I talked about breakdown in communication leading to deception, but then there are some people that just pathologically lie, who act as if all is well, but in fact, they're leading a completely different life.
How do you mean? Like within a marriage?
Yes.
Or, okay.
And then, of course, there's children.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not knocking children. I have two of them.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is things
They're pieces
do
of shit.
change.
No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding.
You
Not
did-
your kids.
You did
children
not
in
know
general.
that. You didn't do a disclaimer about that.
No, I'm totally kidding. Children are fabulous and wonderful.
I believed every word of that. So
I do love kids. I'm sorry for what I said.
That's okay. You don't have to apologize
joke.
to me.
Go on, Alan.
So I think sometimes, look, I see that, one or both gets incredibly invested in the kids, and eventually the two partners start to not really know who they are.
Yeah.
Between the two of them.
Yeah.
And then, look, very sadly, there are cases with special needs children. And that is I totally sympathize with that. And that also can just lead to hardship and heartache.
Yeah.
And then just going back to the emotional piece, I would just want to bring up financial coercive control.
Please. Oh, yeah, that sounds scary.
It sounds scary, but basically it's like, okay, we have one person who kind of holds all the financial cards. Mm-hmm. And then doles out a credit card to the other person and says, here it is, you can use this. But essentially, you're at the other person's beck and call and at their whim. And you really, you have no knowledge of the finances. So years and years can go by, and then you don't have that financial independence. I do think, again, that's a form of coercive control. It can be.
So it sounds like most of the reasons.
In other words, you have a veto power.
Yeah.
One person is saying, can I spend this?
Yeah.
Can I buy this? No, not today.
That's scary territory to get into, because then you no longer have control over your life.
No agency.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It sounds like most of the reasons that you're giving for divorce, or maybe what you see in couples, is basically like a dissolution of the team. There was a partnership, and now there's not. And it's like me versus you.
There's also the reality, I just want to, as you're talking about this, age differences.
Yeah.
So, look, at the time of a marriage, let's say one is early 20s, the other is 50. Mm-hmm. All's well and good. But then when the 50-year-old is pushing 80,
needs
the
depends.
The 20-year-old,
yeah.
loves skiing and playing tennis. I've seen that break down as well.
Yes.
That's not the fault of the person that's getting older, but it just naturally happens.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things, like I talked about in my very long disclaimer. You don't go into a marriage planning for it to end, but things
Well, that's what's so
happen.
odd about the prenup, is that you are literally drafting a 50 to 60 page document preparing for the end when you haven't even started.
Right. So yeah, how do you feel about that? It sounds so morbid when you say it that way.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. But, it's kind of this give and take, because where I stand on the whole prenup thing is, if you aren't okay with coming up with terms in the event that a marriage ends, it's like an insurance policy, right? Like, why even get married? Why are you making that legal?
Had this conversation with my son last night.
Okay. So how old is your son?
16.
And what did your son have to say? I'm so curious.
My wife was just like, look, if you want to get married, get married. If you don't, don't.
Yeah. I think there's some confusion just on that topic about what it means to get married from a legal perspective. Like, for instance, this is not why I got married, but I thought when I got married that there might be some sort of tax break. And
I've heard that a lot, and it's like death to romance. It really is. I've heard this before.
Yeah.
Those tax breaks must be killer. I better than anything else.
Are there any other legalities or misconception of legalities that people think are going to happen when they get married that are like kind of not really the case?
No, I think it's very easy to get married here.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the elaborate wedding. You just go to City Hall.
Yeah.
So we don't have self-solemnization here,
yeah.
but we do have a law now that you can be a one-day efficient. It's just so easy to tie the knot, and yet it can be so hard to divorce.
Yeah.
You're not getting that divorce till all the economic issues are resolved, and if there's children, all the custody issues are resolved.
So when people say divorce is expensive, do they mean that the actual, like, hiring of the attorney and those kinds of things are expensive? Or do they mean just what you were saying, like getting your assets into place and figuring out?
Certainly how costly it is going to depend on how contested it is.
Okay.
There's no doubt. But even when it's generally amicable, you're still separate, you're almost creating two families. It's like under this one umbrella. So now there's going to be two households. So necessarily it's going to be more expensive.
Right.
Even putting aside things like the cost of attorneys and experts and all that, just practically speaking, now there's going to be two separate households, and they're costly, especially in this town.
Ugh. Yes. New York is notoriously expensive. And yeah, as splitting time up with, if there are kids involved, and things like spousal support. So what would entitle someone to something like spousal support, especially if they didn't have children in the mix?
I think, look, in New York, we talk about who's the non-moneyed spouse.
Okay.
And
by non-money, does that mean like
you're
not
making less?
Okay.
So, but that doesn't, everybody practices differently. But, if your client's making $250,000 a year and her husband's making $450,000, is this really a spousal support case that you want to bring through the court system? I would think carefully about that before you spend a lot of money on that.
Yes. Maybe
there's a reason for it, but that more often it is, in what I see, someone who left the workforce, oftentimes to raise children, not always, and is now, let's say, 10 or 15 years later. And when I say left the workforce, had a burgeoning career, let's say, and now it's 15 years later, and for a variety of reasons, they can't just pick up and immediately go back to where they left off.
Yeah.
And it's a situation where they can't be in a spot where they're going to run out of money, right? They need to be self-sufficient.
Sure.
And so that's where spousal support comes into play. It's not enough whether there's child support or not. Again, you have to look at what are the assets being divided? What are they worth? What income can they throw off? Perhaps there's so much income that can be thrown off, you don't need spousal support.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, great. But it is particularly hard when, look, you don't have any of the financial cards anymore.
Sure. I mean, just for an example, my poppy, my grandpop, he was paying spousal support until the day his ex-wife passed, which was fairly recently, and he's 85 or 86. And it's just one of those things that makes you wonder, is there a way out of it? Let's say, I'm paying you spousal support, 10 years later, you get this great job and you're making like tons of money. Am I still paying you what we agreed upon at our divorce settlement?
So if we settled, at least here in New York, the burden is very steep to get a modification on spousal support.
Okay.
Got to show something called extreme hardship.
Okay.
So just saying like, well, now you make a lot of money, you don't need this. I'm not saying you can't try it.
Yeah.
But especially if we have a settlement agreement, it's going to identify the maintenance, we call it maintenance here, termination events. And one of them probably isn't going to be if you become rich. Because how do you define that?
Yeah.
You can, it's a contract. You can create terms. Hopefully they're enforceable.
Yeah.
But typically it's, death, remarriage, cohabitation with an unrelated adult in a romantic relationship for a certain period of time.
The person who's receiving spousal
Right.
support. Okay. So if I am paying...
Or the end of the period. In other words, I'm going to pay spousal support for 5 years. So
you can put
above
those
all else,
parameters
it's
on it.
ending in however many years. Yes.
Okay.
There's amount and there's duration.
So you mentioned something like, extreme hardship. Let's say I am paying you spousal support and I lose my job and I'm like struggling majeur. What happens in that?
You're going to have to show that you're making the effort to get a new job, because otherwise the court might say, we see your credentials, we're going to impute the income that you did have to you. So it's not enough to just say, I lost my job, it's over. So you better be working very hard to find a new one and demonstrate that, look, I'm this rejection, even then, it's not easy.
Buck up, buttercup, because it ain't cheap. It ain't
It's not.
easy. No.
It's not.
No, it's not. And it's really, that's one of the many reasons why I wanted to talk to you today, because I think it's really interesting. And I think it's really important for people who aren't married yet to hear this, because when I was growing up, no one in my family was divorced. I, of course, had like friends at school and things like that, but I was never so close to it that I understood the financial hardships and like all these things that went into it until I was an adult, really. And And especially if you're getting married very young and you're like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and going into this marriage, it's important to hear that in the event of a dissolution of this beautiful, fabulous thing, and knock wood, hopefully that never happens for anyone listening and their spouse, but like it could be really bleak and you can fall into situations out of your control and it can ruin your life.
That's a downer, but yes, it can. But on the brighter side, look, there's always this push-pull in New York in the case law, they call it, about is the purpose of alimony to put you in a position where you can be self-supporting, or is it to replicate the marital lifestyle? And I think the cases always try to, accommodate some degree of both. You can't just ignore that there was a lifestyle and just say, look, this was our arrangement. It's been this way for 20 years, but now I've decided I no longer want that arrangement.
Okay.
And again, it's just, if there is a lifestyle, okay, you have one person who can continue on that, or even better, and then the other person who's really starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Who may well be in a position in their life where realistically, yes, maybe they can go back to work, but they might not be able to make the kind of money they used to.
Let's talk about protecting life's most meaningful moments. Whether it's your engagement ring or your wedding day, Brightco has you covered with fast, easy, and affordable insurance. Brightco is the modern insurance provider for your modern milestones. For jewelry, they offer worldwide coverage, no deductibles, full protection for loss, theft, or even mysterious disappearance, all starting at just $5 a month. Plus, claims are handled quickly with 125% replacement value through your trusted jeweler. Planning your wedding? Brightco offers liability and cancellation coverage tailored to your big day. With flexible prices to match your wedding budget, from meeting venue liability requirements to vendor issues to natural disasters, they've got your back with a simple online process. Visit bright.co/prenup for a fast, free quote today and unlock peace of mind knowing you're covered. Trust Brightco for your insurance needs. Okay, let me pose this question to you. Let's say I am the non-moneyed spouse and there is a case of infidelity on my end.
Okay.
Is that a reason for would they be called the moneyed spouse, the moneymaker? The moneyed spouse to say, I'm not paying spousal support?
No.
No? So they would still have to pay even if I were like
yes,
a
it doesn't work
cheater?
that way. Maybe in another country, I don't know. I'm
Okay.
sure there's some.
No, it's fascinating to me. That's really interesting.
Look, the whole thing with infidelity, boyfriends, girlfriends, lovers, what have you, we have no fault divorce here. For reasons I don't understand, we still have the fault divorce on the books.
So
it's still
can
there.
you just explain, because I'm stupid and don't know the law,
I doubt it.
What is fault divorce versus non-fault divorce?
So fault divorce here, just in general terms, we have cruel and inhuman treatment, which has to be really severe. I'm not going to bore you with all the details.
Sure.
Adultery, which was just repealed as a crime here, although I don't know if the domestic relations law, we call it, if that statute was amended. And then there's something called constructive abandonment, which gets into refusal to have sex for a period of a year. But again, these are still in the statute books. I don't know why. I don't know if, we're like keeping it as a relic of the past here or what. Because we introduced no fault here, right? It's been over a decade now. We were the last state to do it, but we did do it.
And again,
that's just one statement sworn by one spouse saying this relationship broke down irretrievably for a period of 6 months before I filed for divorce. That's it.
And it doesn't matter why.
No.
Okay. Wow. How wild.
But back to your point about infidelity. The question really, the relevance in divorce is, are you what they call wasting marital money on a boyfriend or a girlfriend, right? If you're supporting another person, the non-money party could say, well, look, if you can support her or him, you can certainly support me to that level.
Sure.
And then with custody, right, they call it access, decision-making, physical access to your children.
Yeah.
I have not seen this, but I've heard about it where if you have someone who has partners coming in and out, that is not thought well upon as far as the impact that might have on children.
Yeah. Do you ever see situations where...
But beyond that, it has no place.
Yeah.
Of course, it keeps coming up, despite the fact that it is no fault. You know, of course, to some degree, it's going to affect the trajectory of a case because it escalates the emotions.
So recently, I finished Cher's memoir, part 1, and she... I mean, everyone knows Cher. I don't think I have to explain who Cher is. But so when she was going through her divorce from Sonny Bono, she kind of described certain things that he would do just kind of to fuck with her. And, you know, he would say she's bringing different boyfriends in and he would want full custody and things like that. And he would just take her to court. So is that something that happens more so during divorce proceedings or post? Like, is that still on the table? Like, I can bring you to court because you're not following the terms of our divorce?
I see it during, not post.
Okay.
Typically, if these issues are that sensitive, you might see them addressed in a custody agreement as far as, okay, you're going to wait this period of months, let's say, before introducing the child to a significant other. And then
so you can put that in,
map out how the parents will agree that introduction will go.
Wow.
And if they can't agree, they can consult a mental health professional or some other a mediator.
Yeah.
It can get that detailed.
So once a divorce is finished, you kind of just have to keep your lawyer on file for these types of things as they come up?
Sometimes issues come up where the boyfriend or girlfriend exhibits behavior that obviously puts a child's safety in danger. That, of course, needs to be addressed.
Sure.
But generally speaking, you know, after the divorce is over, whether it's during or after, you know, the fact that, and I get it, it's hard. The boyfriend or the girlfriend is doing things that would ordinarily be consumed within the parent role, like being at the baseball game or what have you. That can be a tough pill to swallow, but there's no cause of action against that.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. So, you know, keep this in mind, people. I know this is, for most of the people listening, like, they're on their first marriage, they're pretty young, but it's with anything. Like, you know, when you say something to a young person, it's like, you know, you have to think about these things. They're like, yeah. But it's interesting to hear these stories as cautionary tales, and hopefully you never have to go through them. But just to know that, like, this is on the table, that it happens.
It always is.
It always is. Yeah. It's a little unsettling. Okay. So
but the sooner you get, accept that.
Yeah.
I think you'll make more peace with it.
Ignorance is not always bliss. It might be bliss in the moment.
Not in this category.
No. You know, think ahead for the future. You're planning your future, and hopefully this isn't a part of it, but knowing what could happen if, God forbid, something happens to your marriage, like, it's pretty helpful.
But you were talking about, you know, kind of a bleakness in preparing for the end before you start.
Yeah.
But I would say that more often than not, in my experience, these negotiations go quite well.
Really?
There's not a ton of bumps in the road. And then ideally, this couple doesn't have to look at that document anymore.
Yeah.
They know it's there. It's the ones where, this is my experience, everyone has a different one, where the communication is lacking or the couple just doesn't want to, they can't face it.
Yeah.
Or there are in-laws involved. Where the negotiations tend to go long, or if someone just comes out of the box with a proposal that is just could be perceived as very cold. It's those cases where the negotiations drag on, where I tend to see there's a lot of scarring, for lack of a better word, where I wonder by the time you get to wedding day, how do you kind of shake that out of your mind?
Yeah.
It can't be easy.
Yeah.
With time, you know, the wound, you know, it goes away to some degree. But ideally, you do not want to be going through that experience.
No. Okay. So another question.
And the best way to avoid that, once again, is to actually talk to your partner.
Yeah. Communication's everything.
If you can't talk to them before you're going to get married, how's it going to work when you do get married?
If you cannot talk to your partner, I mean, you have
and they're not easy discussions. I'm not saying they are.
No, but you have to be able to talk about the hard stuff. And no one's saying it's going to be like this great conversation. There might be argument. And that's okay. How do you deal with argument with your partner? You know, that's a big thing too before you get married. Figuring out how you navigate these things when they're a non-issue, just hypothetically, you know?
Right.
In practice, it's a lot harder to deal with them. So if you can't deal with the conversation and hypotheticals, like that's
It happens.
Yeah.
But it's far from ideal.
For sure. So I always envision, have you ever seen Wedding Crashers?
Yes, ages ago.
Yeah. So there's a scene in the beginning of the movie. The main characters are divorce mediators. And
that's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And the couple is fighting over
really
airline
miles.
Here.
This is Owen Wilson.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And Vince Vaughn. And I think the movie's like 20 years old this year. We did a recap and review of it recently on the podcast. But the couple is fighting over like just the silliest things, and it gets down to airline miles. And
one of my favorites.
It's great. It's so great. It's so comical, but
especially when you find out that the credit card company can't divide them anyway. So you've just spent it depends on the company. And for the ones that don't, maybe they'll offer you some gifts and you can split those. I don't know how. It's really, they're better if there's a lot of miles, I get it. Sometimes there are millions of miles.
Yes.
I understand it.
Yeah.
Short of that, probably not the biggest item to focus on. But again, if clients want to, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like the miles. So if someone is in a situation where, you know what, like divorce is going to be the best option for them, that's the route that they are going to take. What is the first step you would say? Do we talk to our partner first? Do we enlist an attorney first? Like, what do you think?
There's two components. I think one is emotional and then there's one that's legal.
Yeah.
Right? So the emotional side, close family, friends, sometimes a divorce coach. There are some outstanding coaches out there that I've met.
Divorce coach?
Yes.
Interesting.
There are a lot of people that hang their hat on that, but I think there's a select few that actually know what they're doing.
Okay.
That are very effective at it, or a mental health professional.
What is the difference between, I mean, obviously one is legal and one isn't, but why would someone, if they have an attorney, enlist in a divorce coach?
To manage how to have communications with their spouse on a day-to-day while they're going through the process, because that's not something. Of course, we're not robots and this is not completely transactional.
Yeah.
But it's also helpful to have more than one point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess some divorce coaches have been divorced themselves, and some of them specialize in treating women, some of them specialize in treating men.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's helping to also just have self-confidence through the process, because I see a lot of folks who are just objectively miserable, want to get out of the marriage, but are not really sure how to kind of muster up the confidence to take that step.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and that's not something that, I mean, as the lawyer, I can't say, oh, get divorced, or all I can do is give legal advice.
Yeah. And that, I guess, mustering up that confidence looks different in every scenario. So depending on what your relationship is with your current spouse, are you speaking? Are you not?
Right.
Are you on good terms? Are you not? That would really dictate whether we're in a situation that's less dire. We don't need to contact an attorney first and figure all that stuff out.
But certainly if you want a legal understanding, you're going to set up a consult with a divorce lawyer.
Yeah. Okay.
And not just one, probably more than one.
Oh, how many do you recommend?
2 to 3.
2 to 3
It's
consults.
A huge decision.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just make it, okay, someone referred this person, done, I'll go with that.
What should someone be looking for in a divorce attorney?
Let's start with listening. Something that, should be taught in law school but isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, is this person actually listening to you, or are they just kind of hearing it and saying, yeah, but I know what's best. Mm-hmm. I'm the lawyer. I know what to do. I really don't need to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, without any nuance.
Right. And having, to me, some sensitivity.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's not a real estate closing. No offense to the real estate people.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
They're fantastic.
They're fantastic, but there's a less emotional aspect to purchasing or selling a home than, giving up a marriage.
People are going to have different recommendations.
Yeah.
So it's worth comparing a little.
Yeah. Are consults expensive?
For me, they're free.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Everybody has a different view. This is another hot button.
Yeah.
You can ask a different divorce lawyer. They'll say differently.
Yeah.
My view is we're not investment bankers. Let's not do that. But that's me.
Sure.
Other people think it's very appropriate. God bless, whatever you think is right.
Yeah.
For me, I don't do that.
Okay. Good to know. Very interesting. Okay. So let's put a pin in that for now, Alan. I'm sure other divorce things will come up as we're speaking. But every episode we do something called premarital counseling, which, very fitting for you in the legal world. But our premarital counseling is basically just our listeners writing in questions, concerns that they have. They're seeking advice. And I always answer them with a guest because I like to get different points of view. And this one isn't necessarily related to legalities, but I thought it was interesting. And you seem like a sensitive kind of guy, a very logical, realistic guy. And I think you can help our bride today.
Sure.
Okay, awesome. So this is from, we always change names, by the way. So if anyone wants to write in, they can email Adriana at the-pre-nup.com or podcasts@lovestoriestv.com. And again, we will always keep it anon. We give you a funky special name. Today we went with Megan. So hello, Megan. You'll know by the inquiry who you are. Megan says, "Hi, Adriana. I recently got engaged and just started to think about wedding plans. When I got engaged around Christmas time, my family was so loving and happy for me. My parents are still happily married and I'm the middle of 3 sisters. But since I've started to bring up things like venue shopping, I've been sensing some coldness from my family, which is not like them. Long story short, my younger sister let it slip that my whole family was holding out hope that I would wait for my older sister to get engaged first and let her begin wedding planning before I do. This might sound crazy to some people, but in a weird way, I understand. I'm just not sure I understand enough to actually wait for my sister to get engaged. She's been in a relationship for 2.5 years, and I think an engagement will happen within the year. No one has explicitly asked me not to start planning my wedding, but I don't want to disappoint anyone, and I want them to be just as excited as I am. Any advice on moving forward with this? Thank you and love the podcast."
So Megan is engaged.
Megan is engaged.
Her sister's not even engaged.
Her sister's not
but
engaged.
The thought is that her parents want the sister to get married first.
So it sounds like the whole family wants the older sister to get married first.
I see.
And yeah, it sounds like, she sounds so sweet.
I agree.
She sounds like she is really understanding where they're coming from, which I'm
not sure.
I'm not understanding where they're coming from.
It's your kid.
Right. And sister. And even
kid.
so I'm the youngest of my siblings and I was the last to get married, but I really don't think it matters. I don't think birth order should indicate marriage order. I mean, not everyone even gets married. Like anything could happen
also,
with sister.
Just look at the pressure that the sister that's not engaged must feel then.
Right.
I better take care of this.
Oh, yeah.
Because my other sisters are hanging out waiting.
Yes. So, yeah, that's my...
You can kind of tell where I come out on this.
Yeah. So I'm a little confused about why it's so important for the older sister to get married first. And I'm coming back to what you said earlier about the communication piece of things, because I think that's what it always comes down to. The youngest sister, it sounds like, let it slip that this is what everyone's concern is. And I think that Megan just needs to have a conversation with just her parents.
For sure.
And say, like, is this actually the case? Am I crazy? Like, she doesn't have to sell her sister out, but she could say, maybe this is what I'm sensing. Like, is that how you guys are feeling?
And if the answer is yes,
then
that's a tough one.
That's really tough because
it's her life, though. It's not theirs.
So I don't know what the financial situation is. Everyone's is a little bit different when it comes to contributing to a wedding. I don't know if mom and dad are contributing. And I feel for her because she's like, I feel like they're not excited for me and I want them to be while I'm planning my wedding.
Yeah, the conversation needs to happen. I think if they just hear it, because I feel like no one's saying it because they know it sounds crazy.
Right. One would hope.
One would hope,
But
yeah.
I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Every dynamic is different. I think she needs to sit down with the parents and say, is this what's happening? And say, like, listen, I love you guys. I want my sister to have whatever she wants, whether that's getting married or not. But I'm engaged now. And I'm not willing to wait however long it is for Sis's fiance to propose, and however long they want to wait to plan a wedding. Like, she'll have a fabulous, beautiful wedding if that's what she wants. And I hope that you guys will be happy for me in doing the same.
I think the way you closed it there is the most important, to just get past the, well, actually, yes, we want her to have the wedding first. I would come to that conversation saying, I'm going through with this.
Yeah.
So I hope you'll support me.
Yeah.
Because if the answer is no, we won't, that's really unfortunate.
Well, it sounds like when she got engaged, everyone was so excited. And now that the wedding is actually happening, there's a change of tune. So it has to get discussed. And you always have to wonder, because I'm the baby of the family and I can be a little bit of a shit stirrer. Like, is baby sis being a shit stirrer? Is this even the case? Like, you need to find out what is going on. Why is everyone acting weird? And, like, make them say it out loud. Make them hear themselves say, like, we want to wait until...
If that's whatever you want to do, but if you want to go through with it, get married, I don't see a reason to put a pause on it and see, maybe one day my other sister will get engaged, maybe she'll get married, maybe none of those things will ever happen, and then what? Yeah,
coming from two people who have no stake in this situation, this concept in and of itself is crazy. Your sister's not engaged yet. So I want to give Megan some peace of mind, like, this isn't a normal thing.
No, it's not. It's not.
And it might make sense in the context of your family, and that's fine. I don't know your family dynamic, but it's not normal in, like, everyday real terms. And I think it sounds like you have a
Do you think this is a royal family? Like
a royal family?
Yes, like that's why the elder has to, I don't know.
I don't think it's a royal family. I don't think any royals are listening
I'm
to
kidding.
the podcast.
No, they're not into it.
I would have to doubt it. Although if they are, come on down and be on the show. But I don't know, like, I know my family has certain dynamics that maybe some people would find odd and strange. And, like, there's certain things that you do say and you don't say. Like, I'm a little bit of an oversharer, and my mom thinks that's, like, gauche. You don't share personal things with people. That's between you and your family. And, like, you know, people see things in a different way. And I understand where she's coming from, but I don't necessarily agree with it. So we've come to, like, common ground, my mom and I, that we're going to agree to disagree and love each other anyway and support each other and, like, be happy.
You can hang that on the outside of the office of the divorce lawyer.
Yes. But I don't know. What do you think? I think the communication thing just has to be the first.
It won't be easy, but it has to happen.
Yes.
And it could be kind of sad if the reaction is actually, yes, we really wanted you to put a pin in that so you can sit on the sideline and wait for your sister to maybe get engaged.
Yeah.
But better to know that now than just let it fester.
Yes. And, you know, if that is the case, then write back in. We want to hear from you, and, you know.
Keep writing.
Keep on writing in. That'll be a tale for another time. And hopefully when you have the conversation, it'll be something that's like, it was just complete miscommunication, misunderstanding, and now we can move forward. Everyone happily planning the wedding.
Yes.
Alan, thank you for that. That one was a doozy. That's, like, it's tough with family dynamics.
It is.
We also do something every episode called an after party. This is how we end our episodes, and these are just kind of fun. I call them lightning round questions, but usually I ask for more details, so I guess it's not really a lightning round. But they're all wedding related, super fun. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Number one, Alan, what is your honeymoon hotspot?
Kona, the big island in Hawaii.
Oh, fabulous.
Fabulous.
Is it great?
It is.
I've been to Kauai. I've never been to the other islands, but it looks like just nature overload, gorgeous.
There's black rock everywhere, beautiful beaches.
Oh,
It's stunning.
Kona. Oh, that's a good one.
Hawaii is another galaxy.
Absolutely. I started watching The White Lotus last night. Have you
Does it
seen
take
that
place
show?
there or in Thailand?
So there's 3 seasons. We started, my husband and I, on the first season.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and
I've
that
seen
one's
bits and
Maui, I
pieces.
think.
I'm going to have to recommend American Primeval instead, but
What's American Primeval?
it's about life in America, in the American West in the 1840s. It is a lot different than White Lotus.
Okay. Well, we're looking for a new show because we finished Sopranos and we were like, let's give.
If you're into The Sopranos, I think you're going to bend more to American Primeval.
What's
That's just
that on?
me.
American.
Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Outstanding.
Okay.
But don't watch it if you're of the faint of heart. Then you probably want to stick with the Care Bears.
I am of the faint of heart, but now I'm so curious.
Okay.
Okay.
Never have me back again.
I'm going to text you and be like, you
Right.
ruined my night.
Right.
Okay, Alan, what song will get you on the dance floor at a wedding?
Let's go with Keep It Comin', Love.
Oh, it's so
Casey and the
good. Is that
Sunshine
Casey?
Band.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it's.
That was the second song at my wedding.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, that sounds like you had a good playlist.
Oh, it was. It was a good party.
That song is featured in Wedding Crashers, a little callback from earlier. But it's Casey and the Sunshine Band, underrated.
Correct.
Yeah.
1970s.
It's just the best music.
What a decade.
Best music. Can't beat it. Fabulous choice. No one's ever said that one. Okay, what hors d'oeuvre will you never pass up at a wedding?
I'm going to go with Nashville hot chicken waffles, the fried chicken
Hell yeah.
waffles.
Hell yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've seen that passed around town sometimes.
Yes.
I find that most hors d'oeuvres are kind of shit,
Yes.
but that's mostly because after I had COVID, my relationship to food completely changed.
Did you lose smell and taste?
Taste was gone for 8 months.
Oh!
Smell has been gone for about 4 years.
Whoa, you still don't have smell?
No, other than like a really intense perfume, which will be there for like a few seconds and then it's gone.
In a weird
So-
way, I'm so jealous of you because when I had COVID, I lost.
Most people are like, oh, I'm very sorry for you.
Well, and on one hand, yes. But on the other hand, when I lost taste, it was only for about a week. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like so thin. I don't even value taste anymore. I can just eat grilled chicken and be, and in great shape. And then, I got my sense of taste back and
Right.
nothing was off the table. But that it does suck in actuality, but you're probably in great shape. Probably just like eating the best stuff.
It's for me at this age, it's just about nutrition,
Yeah.
sustenance,
Yeah.
and energy.
Totally. But it makes it easier when like it doesn't matter whether something's bland or not. But you can
Right.
taste that Nashville hot chicken.
Yes.
Well, that spice, the hot chicken
Yes.
really gives you.
Yep.
There's a place, Hattie B's in Nashville. Have you ever been
No.
to Nashville? Really good hot chicken. Like,
Went to school in New Orleans,
You
but Nashville
did?
is on the list.
oh yeah, it's a good time. You and the wife go down, some honky tonkin', leave the kids
Perfect.
home. Yeah. Okay, what is your signature cocktail or mocktail?
A sidecar with Doucet with salt on the rim in a rocks glass.
Okay, specific. I love it. I love
I
that.
highly recommend it.
Okay, delish. And sorry, I have 2 more questions for you. If you could invite any living dream guest to a wedding, who would it be?
Going with Axl Rose.
Oh.
GNR is my favorite band. Many members of the band have written books.
Yeah.
Duff wrote a book. Slash wrote a book. The first drummer wrote a book. No book from Axl. So I would love to get into that mind and understand where some of the music came from.
Interesting. I have to hook you up with my friend Luke. He's like a huge Guns N' Roses fan. Anything I know about them is from Luke and Angelica. Hi guys. But they're very interesting. Okay, Axel. Let's get a book. Come on.
I
know. Okay, and then last question I have for you is if you could impart any piece of practical advice to someone planning a wedding, what piece of advice would you give them?
It would be whatever energy you're putting into planning the wedding, please put that same degree of energy, if not more, into the days that come after the wedding. So I get it. We all want to have an awesome party, And I remember it's a lot of time and effort. It's worth it, but don't hang it up after the wedding.
Yes. Yes.
If you want to see it grow and continue, keep at it, because you really don't. I'm sorry, but and again, this is from what I do for a living. You don't get to the top of the mountain and then just chill. It just doesn't work that way.
Work as hard on the marriage as you did on the wedding, harder.
And I wouldn't, again, I mean, I don't, that word work, right? Because it sounds like, oh, who wants to do that? Just if you're interested in it, which hopefully you are, if you're putting all this effort into the wedding, make the investment. It benefits you and your partner.
Very, very good advice. Alan, thank you for doing this. Where can everyone find you?
Okay, so I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, all lowercase, alrichard_F. Also at Nonlinear Love Stories, nonlinearlovestories.com. Check out the podcast.
Really quick, tell people what nonlinear is.
So it is, at this point in time, it's, I guess, twofold. One, myself and my partner in that, Ariella Steinhorn, she's a journalist and writer here in New York. We publish and tell people's love stories, love, dating, romance, breakup, divorce. And we are also now interviewing people on the podcast to share those stories as well in what I'd call a non-prescriptive manner. I think there are just a sea of podcasts out there in the self-help relationship space. I can't listen to them. I just can't. And the 5-step method to the best marriage ever or what have you, I'm sorry, I think it's bullshit.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these stories they kind of highlight that relationships can be messy, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
It tends to make them more interesting.
Yes.
So our most recent guest yesterday, this will come out in like a week, was Lori Woolever. She used to be the assistant for Anthony Bourdain. She has a new book out, Care and Feeding. I highly recommend it. It's a wild ride. And so, we're looking forward to continuing to meet people and they can tell their authentic love stories.
Amazing. Getting so many good recs from you today, Alan. Okay. So we'll leave everywhere that you can find Alan in the show notes if anyone needs a consultation. It's for free.
I'm not allowed to promote that. You said that.
I said
did
it.
Not.
I said it, not Alan.
I didn't. I'm not even here.
Alan, thank you again for doing this. This was really, really informative and helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into The Prenup. This episode is brought to you by Brightco. From your engagement ring to your wedding day, protect your most cherished memories with Brightco. Visit bright.co/prenup for a fast, free quote today and unlock peace of mind knowing you're covered. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform or on the Love Stories TV YouTube channel. Follow at @the_pre_nup and at Love Stories TV on Instagram for more. Have feedback or suggestions for the next episode? Feel free to reach out to us at podcasts@lovestoriestv.com.